Hi, Bernhard.
Hi, Carsten. Yeah, so in this one, we are talking a little bit about, publishing applications with remote applications in Azure Virtual Desktop, right? So remember, all the things that we published to the users were the desktop, the remote desktop as a whole. Right now, we are focusing on just the tiny application that is installed on the on the desktop itself. That's the thing that we want to publish, right? So I think, first of all, we may, talk a little bit about some dependencies, right? So we can only publish what is basically installed on the host, on the session host, right? So there is a dependency on this, and what we publish, either the desktop, right, which is at the bottom, or the application is, sort of defined in an application group, right? So, and we can either publish the session host desktop or the or applications on top of it, not both at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It was different a little bit in the past. However, the communication from Microsoft, or the recommendation, always was that use a host pool for either desktop hosting or for desktop sharing, or use another session host for application hosting, right? So don't mix it. Yes. So basically, what we created was or what you did was you created a new separate host pool with explicitly the setting that this one is should be used for RemoteApp, right? So remember, in the previous ones, there was it was mentioning desktop, right? But this one is dedicated for RemoteApp. Okay. And before we switch to your screen, maybe some other things is we can only publish the applications that are installed locally on the session hosts, right? So that's why we all, did talk about customizing the images, because we want to have our applications installed on this session host, right? So our business application, for example, right? Alternatively, there is another method of publishing applications, which is using app attach or MSIX app attach. And this sort of separates the application from the desktop. So that's which I'm trying to say here is that these applications, the app attach applications and the MSIX app attach applications, are not installed locally on the operating system. They are sort of side loaded for the into that operating system, right? However, we are not talking about this here, but you just, for completeness, I'm just adding that this point is also possible with Azure Virtual Desktop and the RemoteApp in the application groups, right?
Yeah, this is a
But
bit out of scope because it
right,
can be getting rather complex, and
right,
so we
yeah,
wanted just to show how to
yeah. So it
publish
might
some
come,
remote apps.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we might do it in a later video, right? But we are focusing on publishing applications that are installed locally on session hosts, right? So this is the focus of this one. Okay. Yeah, let me just jump forward. And how do we do that? I mean, before we dive into the Azure portal and go to your system, there are some questions that we obviously need to ask, right? And the applications that you can publish are either visible through the start menu, right? So think about it. The agents that are installed on the session hosts would look up your start menu, which applications they find, and they would they would tell Azure or the Azure Virtual Desktop Service, hey, you can, if you want to publish applications, these are the ones that I find that you can publish, right? Some of the applications are not in the start menu, but they are still on the system. So that's the other option, the file path option, right? But you need to be a little bit more explicit on where on the C drive or where is the path to the executable, right? Depending on which option you choose, it's a little bit different. The dialogues are visualizing a little bit different.
Mhm.
Additionally, there is the Windows Store apps, right? You may know already that these Windows Store apps or the Microsoft Store apps are stored in a different folder, right? Sometimes with different and maybe not so nice and obvious paths. So these ones still want to be published, maybe, or some of them, and it's as it is a little bit more complicated. And as you have said, it's a common request. We are
Mhm.
also publishing a Microsoft Store app.
Mhm.
Another possibility would be, to publish Windows Sandbox or apps that are running inside of the Windows Sandbox. But to be honest, I haven't done it so far. However, if you want to have an isolated application to be published, that's also something that you can look into. Yeah, and I think that should be it. And maybe we switch to your screen and do the magic.
We do. Okay, so here I am on my screen, and we see our cluster for
Mhm,
our Azure Stack HCI cluster. And here we see in the last video we published the desktop. We did
mhm,
some also installing some applications. In the optional videos, we added language packs and configured
mhm,
them. And now I deployed a new host pool because you said it,
mhm.
the desktop publishing should not be done on the same session
Yeah.
host. So we published, or we created two new
Mhm.
session
So the
hosts.
so the A
Yeah,
is indicating that we are using applications for this
yeah,
one, and the D in the other ones, which are currently switched off, is sort of saying that these ones are for the desktop. Okay.
exactly. So
Mhm,
I opened already one of those hosts,
mhm.
and we are
Okay.
here in the host.
Mhm,
And here we see the start window of uh, our Azure portal, and we have here the Azure Virtual Desktop. So
mhm,
I choose that, and when we look in the host pools, we have in the
mhm,
moment two. Yeah, we have our desktop host pool where our session hosts, our complete
mhm,
desktops are published, and we
mhm.
created a new one. You saw it you showed it in the screenshot. It's called
Right.
host pool and then remote apps. So
Mhm,
I choose this one,
mhm.
and we also created an application group. Yeah, we need
Okay.
an application group. So here we see we have two machines. We saw that
Mhm,
at the cluster in the failover cluster manager. Here we have our application group,
mhm,
and we see here it's for remote apps. We have
mhm.
0 application published so far, and we have only done the assignment of a user group that we can see what's published. So if I go in
Yeah.
here,
So let
yeah,
me add maybe one thing. So if you provision a new host pool, you often see that there is a default application group already being published, right?
mhm,
So you may either use that one and tweak it, right? But it is maybe containing not the right thing. For desktops, maybe yes, but for application groups, I prefer to delete the default one and create a
mhm,
new application group. It's not really a lot that you need to specify here. It's just a placeholder first, where you are hooking it up into a workspace where you're just saying like, hey, this should be visible to the users in that workspace. And maybe you can do the assignments. So which user should be accessible or should be allowed access to this one. And then basically the main thing is the applications which are published through that object, right?
mhm.
Um, so let's go
Yeah,
into the
what
applications, right?
I've
Or
seen is that
mm,
the created application group has the session desktop
right.
as published, and that's that's in the moment. So we are still in 24, so maybe
Mm,
that changed. So
mm,
we did a new one. You see here, I assigned already our user group, AVD
okay.
users. So you could, of course, say this user has access to this application group and there are special applications. We don't want that. So and now I go to applications manage, and we have nothing here. And for the first one, so we have here start menu. You explained that. We have file path and we have app attach. We first choose the start menu, and we see already, because the VMs are running, Azure Virtual Desktop can read which applications are available in the start menu. And here we can browse through them. So let's choose, for example, Visual Studio Code was one application we deployed in our golden image, and we can choose it here. It will fill in the display name. We can change something in the description. Here is a application path. It's very easy, and we can say we require a command line. I've never done that. I don't know why. So maybe we can add some options here.
Yep.
Yeah, if we go to the next screen, maybe I can put it a bit higher. Oh, no, I don't want that. So yeah, the icon is specified. The icon is included in the exe, and we choose the first one. And now we can review an ad. And I'm missing something. I'm missing
you need
the
to maybe
buttons.
scale the window down. Like
There we are. No, stay. So now we do add.
Okay.
And it takes a while.
So actually the session hosts need to be turned on, right, in order to make an application group, right? Otherwise, you would receive an error and say like, hey, you can't add it because he's not able to read the list of applications. Okay, sounds good.
So I go to the Windows app because what I already have done, I assigned this application group to the host pool to the workspace. So everything that in the workspace here, we connected this to a workspace, and the application should now appear here in the Windows app. And I have some troubles with my Windows app. It takes a little bit longer than usual to get updated information. And I see a funny error message. We will see it, I think, soon, that it can't not update the information, something like that. So it's here you see it. The refresh isn't incomplete. So it's complete, but it's not an error or what. So I think when you try it, it may be changed already. So our viewer try it, because this is obviously a weird thing to say. So here we see our session desktop we published in the last videos, and here under apps we now see our application. Yeah, and I can click on it, and let's see where it opens. So we have it here, and we see it starts, and we can show details here. So now you see this is the first application to this session host. So we can see here a complete login into a Windows screen. Usually we can see it. In the moment, it's just black. So normally we would see a blue screen here.
Sometimes it's useful in order to when you need to do troubleshooting, to be honest, right? So at least if you get a context, sometimes the visualization lags a little bit behind. But for example, if you have problems with logging into the profile share, then you would see that probably.
So, and of course, it opened on another screen. I have not configured it that it only is. I think we can do it here, right? With the, no, we can't. Okay. So this is our easy application. You just have it in the start menu. You just choose it. We can choose now Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and so on. Easy. But what we want to show is also Windows Store app. These are a bit difficult to configure, as you said. So I do that here, but I need more information. So if we do a Windows Store app, we have to change to file paths because we don't see them here in our applications. And we decided we want to do the the Edge browser, and it's not here. At least I don't see it. Do you see it? No, it's not here. Yeah,
No.
it is. It
No.
is. So unusually it is. So we
Mm.
choose something else. What's paint? Paint is not here, right? Do you see paint?
No.
No,
No.
paint is not there, huh?
No.
Okay.
At least,
So
no.
Edge we could just do over the start menu, but there are other applications that are a bit more difficult. So we change to file path, and then we have to specify the application path, the application identifier, and this is a mandatory. So we see the red star here. And now it's a question, how do we get the application path and the application identifier? And you were so nice to do a
Yeah,
little
if you
bit of PowerShell. Yeah,
let me, if you could switch over to
I
my
could
screen,
switch to your screen, of course.
because
Here
then
you
there is the documentation out there for how to do that, right? So if you want to read that, please go back to the official documentation and look for the store applications, and it would tell you on how to do that. At some point in time, you see that complex shell folders, the application folders, and the application name. So this, can become a little bit tricky. So I think it's you will probably end up doing PowerShell and trying to gather the data, the relevant data, and that's why we came up with some PowerShell code to make it easier for you to, for example, get the icon of the file that you want to publish, and maybe to get to these information automatically and do less guesswork, right? So
I have to add, if you do it like this way, you have to get an icon somehow in a path. You did something better. You find out where the icons are, and you can choose them, right?
Right. So that's the code that Carsten will be probably using, or sort of similar code. You can find it on the GitHub repository. And I'll make the link into the video, so a little bit easier that you can find it then there, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So
back to my screen, or do you want to
no, all good.
something? Okay, so here I'm in your GitHub repository, and we have the same code here, and I just copy raw file, and add it here to our Visual Studio Code. Yeah.
And it needs to be done, obviously, on the session host where you are, right? So
we are in a session host here, you see that, and when I just run it, it will open an out-grid view window, and we can see all the applications here. So, and if we want to search for paint, I will, you see what I'm doing, right? Normally I'm browsing, but Bernhard says you can just search, and he's right. So here we see Microsoft Paint. I choose it. So here we have already the package family name in the installation location and so on, but you did some more work, and now it opens the icon path. Yeah, and we can choose an icon here, and I would choose, for example, a larger one. Let's say this one. When I say open, we get a nice output here. The color we can discuss the color because it's looking like arrows. It's not, so it should be better, maybe better green now, right, Bernhard? So here's the file path. We need this information, and I add it here. Paste, and you see here we have this shell application folder, then a weird information at the end, and then the exclamation mark and app. Yeah, and then we need the application identifier. You could just remove this one and take the last, but it's nice to just copy and paste it. And then we choose an icon. I have to make it a little bit smaller that I can copy the icon path. And this is a long one. And the application, of course, has to be installed on. Oh, it's too long.
Specify a name. The icon goes into the next
you
layer.
are
That's the
completely
friendly name.
right, completely right. This is just Paint.
Mhm.
Yeah, how you want to the name of the published application.
Mhm.
And we go to next. There is the icon path, and here I can
Mhm.
paste the icon path. We go to review and add.
Mhm.
And now we add our store application.
Mhm. Okay,
So
so give it a try if that works.
I give it a try. I have to reload. We have to work. We have to wait for our confirmation that it does not work.
Mhm.
So now we will see if the Windows app will show the additional application. And here's another tile, or how do you call it? So, and if this is not working, we have still the legacy app,
Mhm.
this one. There we already see Paint, Visual Studio on, and also the session desktop, so the full desktop.
For the other host pool, right? So
Yeah. So
okay.
let's see. I think the Windows app is heavily developed, so I think this weird error will disappear soon. So let's click on Paint and let's see what happens. Yeah. So here we see the login as me. And of course it opens on the other screen. Here it is. So Paint is working. Yeah. And let's
And
open.
even with the
Yeah.
looks like with the German language pack, I'm not quite sure if which version you have chosen, right?
Yeah,
So,
we have in our golden image that I deployed, we have German, and we configured it for my user. So the
yeah.
language settings are still there. So I open Visual Studio 3 times now. If you
Okay.
double click, don't 3-click. So it's working. So we showed how you can deploy an app that is in the startup in the menu, and
Yep.
store app. So, and this concludes our app deployment video.
Correct.
See you on
That's
the
me.
next one, Bernhard.
See you in the next one.